准备好了吗？上去就不能再回头了。
放心，为了火炬城，我不会再走回头路了。
F.I.S.T. Forged in Shadow Torch is a 3D side-scroller that was developed by T Games in 2021. This was another one of those games where I saw the trailer once and immediately added it to my list of games to play. Once it came out, I imported a copy from China, and when I booted up the game, the first thing I did was switch the game's dialogue option to Mandarin. The game looked and sounded incredible on the PS5, and it definitely caught me by surprise, as it was a lot more fun than I thought it would be. At its core, F.I.S.T. is a story about friendship. You play as Rayton, the bunny. Rayton is prior military, and throughout his journey in this game, you get to meet his old military pals and learn a bit of their backstory. The game story itself was simplistic, but it worked. I mostly appreciated the enemy characters that were introduced, and I could have honestly cared less about where the plot would have gone, because I was having way too much fun with the gameplay. I was all for the combat and platforming in this game. With each new weapon and ability upgrade, I willingly return to each area that I've played through to discover 100% of each location. By the end of the game, Rayton is able to wield a mech fist, drill, and electric whip. Learning the combat mechanics wasn't difficult, and there were training areas in the game where you could rep out some insane combos. The portions of the game where Rayton had to swim underwater was also really fun, especially once Rayton had all the proper upgrades to breathe infinitely and break through barriers underwater. I found it really addicting and satisfying exploring hard-to-reach areas that required good timing while executing platforming mechanics. This aspect gave the game good replay value because I didn't want to stop playing. I wanted to explore all of the places I missed during my initial playthrough. In doing this, I was able to discover a lot of posters that were used to customize the color schemes of Rayton's mech attachments. A majority, if not all these posters, were references to anime and various representations of pop culture. While the game wasn't all too difficult, the final boss battle against Cicero was super difficult for me and took a few hours to beat. I kind of fucked myself over and overcomplicated the fight, thinking that I needed to use a combination of all three of Rayton's mech weapons during this battle. It took a lot of continues for me to realize that I should have just stuck to using the electric whip, and I ended up defeating Cicero quite easily. Booting up the game's main menu was an experience in and of itself. Right off the bat, you could tell that this game was going to look really good with the developer's utilization of Unreal Engine 4. The rest of the game similarly followed suit. There were some moments in the game where Rayton would be running across the screen, and the camera would zoom out to really focus on the detail of Rayton's backdrop, giving the scene a real cinematic ambiance that I really appreciated. Another thing I wanted to touch upon is the details of the character designs. There are a lot of mechanical aspects to the game's characters, and I enjoyed the old-time yet futuristic aesthetic of the game's world. The world itself looked and felt bleak, and the characters and machinery matched this atmosphere completely. The designs of Rayton's enemies were so well done. Each enemy looked really cool and intimidating in their own merit, especially the game's bosses, with Typhoon being my personal favorite. The boss battles themselves felt epic and were very high octane, which would not have been as easily accomplished if it weren't for the game's incredible soundtrack. F.I.S.T's music was composed by Kai Sheng-bo. The music tracks really helped to flesh out all of Rayton's surroundings as he traveled from one area to another. The music's dark and fast-paced tones were perfect for exploring areas to completion as well as taking part in some mech-induced combat. The main theme of the game is just so good, and I really love how it slowly builds up from a nice tune on the guitar strings to multiple epic bass blasts. Hearing this on the title screen while watching Rayton exhibit his mech attachments was just a really cool experience. F.I.S.T is a game that I would genuinely play again from the beginning. Its dark atmosphere, addicting gameplay, and epic boss battles are more than enough for a replay later on down the line.